there was a little problem with where this dam was built. So, back in 1915, this dam is complete. They shut the gates, they get rid of the cofferdam, they start to fill this baby up. And the engineers come out, they're like, this is so great, we're filling up the dam. And then they're watching the water go up, and then all of a sudden the water starts to go back down again. The engineers get a little concerned. But then, comes back up. And then it starts to go down again. They go, you know, it's kind of that soil absorption thing, spongy thing, it'll be all right. Meanwhile, in a little town, 2 miles away from here, right below where the education center is located, a little town called Moncton, also known as Cedar Falls, there were about 150 people living with houses and restaurants, saloons, grocery stores, elementary schools, and they suddenly noticed that water was bubbling up from underground. And they said to each other, "Hey, Bill! Bill, you see that water up there?" "Yeah, you know, I noticed that, Bob. I don't know what's going on. What do you think is going on?" "I don't know what the hell's going on. Go back to bed. We'll figure it out in the morning." They get up in the morning, and the water has spread out through the middle of town. The wooden sidewalks they had in town are now floating in about 6 inches of water. So the residents there were pretty smart. They said, you know, this kind of looks like a flood, but it's happening really slowly. So they said, you know, let's get our furniture up to the second floor. So they moved their furniture up to the second floor. And in the next couple of weeks, that water kept rising 6 inches, 12 inches every day. It rose up and it crept up the front steps and in the front door of their houses. So now they got worried that it might just lift their houses away. So they quickly hired boats to come in to get all their stuff out. It's a good thing they did, because in the next week and a half or so, the water rose up so high that it actually lifted their houses off of their foundations. And what we had was a lake filled with houses floating around. Now, at this point, the city figured out what was going on. And what was happening was that the water from behind the dam was leaking, but not through the dam. This rock solid. It was leaking out through something affectionately known as a glacial moraine. And a glacial moraine, as you guys probably know, holds water about as well as a sieve. And so what was happening was this whole area alongside of this pool is glacial moraine. And water was seeping down into the glacial moraine and then being pushed down by a little rime on the outside of the moraine and popping up in the middle of where this town was. So the city said to the people who lived, hey, look. I mean, who knew? What are we, perfect? Look, we'll pay you for your houses and property and you can go live somewhere else. And you know what? Everybody who lived there said, hey, you know what? Stuff happens. Not one single lawsuit was filed as a result of this particular event. There was a later lawsuit filed, which I'm going to tell you about. So, it was a separate event. So, one wonders, were people less litigious, or were there just fewer lawyers? Ask yourself the question. I don't know one way or the other. So now the city had a problem.